Have you ever seen people play what looked like soccer in the water with what looked like a volleyball? This game is not water soccer or volleyball. It is water polo. Many consider water polo the hardest sport to be part of. But what is water polo? Water polo started out as a very violent game played in ponds and lakes in Europe. Back then, the game was more about beating up other players rather than actually scoring points. Drowning people was actually rewarded back then because it was all part of the game. As time went on, rules became established and the game evolved. The game began being played in pools rather than in ponds, and more people began to play. Later in history, it was the first sport in the Olympics that was done as a team rather than individually. This game started out as a men-only game because of how brutal it could be. Now, the women's games are said to be more vicious than the men's games. In this game, there is a ball that gets thrown around, and at each end of the pool, there is a goal. The objective of the game is to score the most points. There must be 6 players and a goalie for each team in the water at all times. There are quarters in water polo just like basketball, but these quarters can be anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes long, and the ball can only be in possession of one team for 30 seconds at a time. A referee stands alongside the pool the entire game, just like any other sport, to call out fouls and call turnovers. A turnover is when the ball goes into the other team's possession. In water polo, there are fouls just like in basketball. If a defender tries to get the ball and it causes it to fall out of the player's hand, that's a foul. If a defender goes over the top of another player to get the ball, this is also a foul. Sometimes players will fake fouls to receive a free pass, which is when the defender cannot touch them while they pass. There are also kickouts in water polo. Examples of this would be stopping another player from swimming or using 2 hands and shoving them underwater. These have a little bit stronger punishment than a normal foul. A player is put into the corner for 20 seconds or until the possession of the ball changes. If a player gets kicked out 3 times, they're out for the rest of the game. In water polo, you are only allowed to use one hand to catch, throw, and shoot the ball. Using 2 hands will result in a turnover and the other team gets the ball. This can be a challenge for players because in some situations, using 2 hands may seem like the thing to do, but it would be a bad decision. You also cannot use the bottom of the pool in the shallow end, with the exception of the goalie. Using the bottom in any way will result in a turnover of the ball. Those are the basics of water polo. Water polo started out as a very violent game but is now played worldwide. The game is very similar to many sports but is a sport all its own.